You walk into a room full of people, loud voices, laughter, smiles, handshakes, and you think, this is just another crowd, just another gathering. But if you pay attention, really pay attention, you'll realize something else entirely. Every room, every circle, every interaction is a battlefield. Not with weapons, not with blood, but with information. In today's world, the true currency of power isn't gold or status or brute force. It's knowledge. And more specifically, knowledge about people. What they want. What they fear. What they're planning. What they're hiding. What keeps them awake at night. If you know these things, if you can see people before they see you, you own the board before the game even begins. This is the essence of Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy. Now before your mind jumps to deception or treachery, stop. This law isn't about being a snake. It's about understanding the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. It's about being 2 steps ahead, not by force, but by insight. Because here's a truth few admit, everyone's guarding something. And most people? They let their guard down when they think they're safe. When they feel liked. When they feel understood. That's the moment. That's your window. Not to exploit. Not to destroy. But to learn. Because when you know what someone truly thinks, what they really believe, you're in control. Not them. But here's the mistake amateurs make, they come in loud. Direct. They try to ask questions that feel too pointed, too obvious. People sense it. They close up. They give you the surface. And in power, the surface is where the fools live. The smart ones dig. So how do you dig? You don't come with a shovel. You come with a smile. You pose as a friend. You mirror their energy. You show interest. You ask open-ended questions, not interrogations, but invitations. You let them talk. And they will. Oh, they will. Because everyone wants to talk about themselves. Everyone wants to feel interesting, important, wise. Most people don't even need a push, just a willing listener. And when they start opening up, when they start revealing their beliefs, their frustrations, their ambitions, you start collecting. Silently. Calmly. You gather intel like a sponge in still water. Because the real spy doesn't announce themselves. The real spy is the mirror. Let me tell you something that's been true across centuries, across empires, across every regime and organization you can name. The one who holds the most information is the one who makes the decisions. Kings, CEOs, presidents, generals, they've all relied on intelligence to secure their thrones. Not just reports, not just rumors, but the kind of insight that comes from knowing who's lying, who's loyal, who's plotting, and who's scared. And you don't get that from press releases or public statements. You get it from conversations. From whispers. From what people say when they don't know they're saying anything at all. But here's the kicker, you don't even need to ask for secrets. If you know how to listen, people will give them to you freely. There's an old saying, if you want to know what someone's hiding, let them talk long enough. Because eventually, they'll reveal something. A crack in their story. A contradiction. A name they shouldn't have mentioned. A detail they didn't realize was important. And that, right there, that tiny thread, you pull on it. Slowly. Patiently. And before long, the whole picture unravels. Let's take this out of theory and into the real world. Imagine you're working inside a competitive company. Everyone wants the promotion. Everyone's smiling, shaking hands, playing the part. But underneath? It's cutthroat. People are maneuvering, aligning, undermining. Now if you walk in naive, if you believe everyone's your buddy, you'll get played. You'll be the one left wondering why your ideas got stolen, why your reputation suddenly dipped, why someone else beat you to the opportunity that was meant for you. But let's flip it. Let's say you walk in calm, confident, curious. You're friendly, but observant. You build relationships, not just with words, but with attention. You listen more than you speak. You learn who's insecure, who's ambitious, who's gossiping, who's silent. And slowly, you start mapping the terrain. You don't make enemies. You don't make grand moves. But behind the scenes, you know who's aligned with whom, who's planning what, who's feeding lies to leadership, and who can be trusted. Now you're no longer reacting. You're predicting. You're not just in the game, you're designing the board. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean you don't have morals. This doesn't mean you manipulate for sport. It means you recognize that in a world full of noise, information is clarity. And clarity is power. Let's look back at some of the greats who understood this law better than anyone. Take Cardinal Richelieu in 17th century France, one of the most powerful political minds in European history. Richelieu didn't need a sword. He had spies. Everywhere. Courtiers, advisors, even servants. He understood that control didn't come from brute strength, it came from knowing what everyone else didn't. While others played politics with emotion, he played it with intelligence, because he knew what people wanted before they said it. He knew their secrets before they even whispered them. And that knowledge made him untouchable. Or consider modern examples: CEOs, intelligence officers, negotiators. The best of them don't dominate by force. They dominate by understanding. They know the internal landscape of their rivals better than those rivals know themselves. That's the real art. That's Law 14 in motion. Now, this law has another layer, perhaps the most important of all. It's not just about learning others. It's about concealing yourself. You pose as a friend because a friend is non-threatening. A friend doesn't provoke fear. A friend doesn't make people tighten their defenses. And in that space, while their guard is down, you stay covered. You stay vague. You smile, but you don't show your hand. You ask more than you answer. You nod more than you speak. You offer just enough to build rapport, but not enough to be read. Because the moment someone thinks they know you, they stop watching. And that, my friend, is your moment of control. Think of it like chess. The pawn smiles, moves forward, takes up space, while the queen watches silently, waiting for her move. Don't be the pawn. Be the observer. Be the one who already saw the play 2 turns ago. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Some people hear this and say, but that sounds manipulative. And here's my answer: it depends on your intention. If you're using information to destroy, yes, it's manipulation. But if you're using it to navigate a complex world, to protect your path, to shield your vision from sabotage, that's strategy. That's survival. You see, you can't afford to walk through life blind. Not if you want to lead. Not if you want to win. Not if you want to build something that lasts. You have to know. And to know, you have to listen. Not to the loud things. Not to the staged moments. But to the undercurrents. The offhand comments. The sideways glances. The things people say when they think it doesn't matter. It all matters. You don't need to be cold. You don't need to be fake. But you do need to be aware. You need to understand that beneath the surface of every room, every relationship, every organization, there's a silent current of politics, emotion, ambition, and fear. And if you can read it, if you can learn to see what others don't, then you can lead without shouting, win without fighting, and move without resistance. Pose as a friend. Work as a spy. Not to harm, but to know. Because when you know, you choose. You choose when to act. You choose what to reveal. You choose where to go, who to trust, when to strike, and when to wait. That is power. And in a world obsessed with being seen, Sometimes the greatest strength is being the one who sees everything, but says nothing.